Hello, this is Locally Entertaining, and I am your host, Joanne Bailey-Boorsma, and with me today is Dondrea Brown with the 1428 Financial Wellness. You know what? People are going to say to me, okay, so what does financial wellness have to do with locally entertaining? I can already hear our listeners asking that big question. But I think for a little history, just to give to our listeners, one of the things I kind of wanted to point out to them is, I've been an entertainment editor for most of my career. And the big thing that I've always promoted to people is about the importance of planning to go to a show. If you buy the ticket, you're going to show up. That's kind of a logic. But some of the times I hear is like, well, the tickets are so expensive. And I'm like, but if you plan for it, it's not that expensive. And, of course, I got the fortunate opportunity to meet you a couple weeks ago and your amazing philosophy behind financial planning. And I thought, this is a great time to talk about how to plan those things for doing that, because it's important. You've dealt with all kinds of different people. So,
yes. So my business, 1428 Financial Wellness, is really founded along the principles or the biblical principle, count the cost, right? Mm-hmm. So my philosophy is to ensure that people are able to count the cost. And what does that truly mean? That means your ability to take control of your finances. Joanne, you're correct about planning. Typically, when we don't plan something, we get very impulsive. Mm-hmm. And when we get impulsive, we make uninformed decisions. So we'll either spend more for an item or don't purchase it at all. But something like enjoying yourself, planning for a vacation, like that's your well-being, right? That's the wellness part. When we talk about finances, it's not only doom and gloom, right? It's really positioning yourself to take control and enjoy life. Money is a tool and a resource that you can utilize to enjoy yourself. So that's what our business really focuses on. Helping you take control and do the things that you want to do.
Mm-hmm. But let's talk a little bit about the entertainment scene. I mean, we have a lot of opportunities here. We have the Grand Rapids Symphony, we have the Opera Grand Rapids, we have the Grand Rapids Ballet, we have a variety of different theater productions like Grand Rapids Civic Theater, Circle Theater. I mean, they all are out there. And, the biggest key, I think, for the first step, is if this is something you're really interested in, I think you need to really kind of take some time and research what your interest is and what relates well to that. Don't you agree?
Yeah, so especially when we think about entertainment. So entertainment can cost anywhere from free, right, to hundreds and thousands of dollars. So when it comes to planning, identify some of the things that you're interested in, and even think about things that you slightly might be interested in, and add that to your planning. The great thing about planning is you can identify the best time to go. It doesn't mean you have to go this year, right? It doesn't mean you have to go tomorrow. You can say, I would love to enjoy that symphony. Let me do some research to see when they have season tickets, right? And see what their payment options are to plan ahead.
Mm-hmm. So now you bring up a good point. A lot of places right now, they don't have their season tickets. The season tickets actually, I think, get announced probably about March or so, but it's actually a great way. And I'm going to use Broadway Grand Rapids as a really great example. Okay. They usually announce their season tickets, I would say, end of February, beginning of March, somewhere around in there. You have until April. And I know this only because I purchased season tickets from them. And I know people said to me, well, I'd love to go to Hamilton, but the tickets are so expensive. If they had purchased a season ticket, and I'm just looking at I'm looking pretty much at the cheap seats, it would have been $251 for 6 shows in that particular seat, which breaks down to about $41 a show. I bought tickets for my daughters to see Hamilton, and that was just at the front end of the balcony, and it was over $70. Wow. So you can still see a lot of this stuff if you reasonably plan. And the nice thing about like Broadway Grand Rapids is they do a 4-payment plan. So you don't have to pay it. Now, there is an upfront fee to do that, but you don't have to pay it. Is that a great way to kind of figure something out?
So I think that's an awesome way because, again, when we're thinking about spending, we have to also think about the education behind spending, right? So how can we learn more about the options that exist? One of the things that I always encourage people to also consider is discounts. There are always opportunities for discounts. You just have to stay abreast to what those options look like. For example, I know we were talking a little early before the podcast about student discounts. We have to be able to leverage some of the things we're involved in, whether it's being a student, a veteran, a teacher. There are so many things that we do day to day that we don't leverage when it's time to purchase things. So really think about and ask those questions. What discounts do you offer so that I can ensure that I'm participating in this activity?
Well, and the neat thing about it, I think it's really cool, is our local entertainment organizations have really worked hard to make it affordable, especially for students. It's like $5 you can get into a Grand Rapids Symphony concert.
Awesome.
If you're a student, and it's $12 for the Opera Grand Rapids. You have a variety of opportunities, a variety of pricing in there, and everybody's willing to work. Which kind of brings up a subject to me. A lot of people think Opera Grand Rapids, and it is a little bit of a show. You go and you are the show as much as you're going to the show. You know what I mean? It's the whole 9 yards outfit. It's to the nines and kind of like that. I think sometimes people, don't realize that it's not every show or every production's like that.
Right.
Yeah,
I would add that don't feel intimidated. I know sometimes when we want to go enjoy ourselves, we make assumptions about the attire. Feel free to ask people, because you don't want to position yourself when you're like, oh, I'm going to pay this amount for the tickets, and then you feel like you have to spend more on the clothing, but you didn't plan for that. So now you're out of your budget, and it's frustrating. You may not want to go. Ask people. Call them and say, hey, what is the attire for this event? Is it okay if I wear some jeans? I know you were mentioning earlier that you went to one of the plays and you seen someone wearing some jeans.
Mamma Mia.
Yeah.
Mamma Mia. We went to see Mamma Mia.
Went to see Mamma Mia. They were wearing jeans. So think about not even having to go and buy additional things. Just go in your closet, because I think when we think about entertainment, sometimes it's important to, dress the part, but it's also important to be there. And be in that environment, and you don't want something like clothing to deter you from enjoying an experience like that.
Because as my mom always says, they turn out the lights at the theater so you can see the show. Nobody's really going to be paying attention while you're watching.
So true, right.
What you're wearing. She's like, as long as it doesn't light up, you're pretty much okay.
So I can't take my daughter because her shoes light up. No, I'm kidding.
I would. But I mean, it's the truth. And, I'm thinking too, Civic Theater's got an upcoming production called Alf, the musical, which if anybody's ever seen Alf, it's a funny little comical musical. I mean, the musical is really very good. You could wear, I'm thinking a funky, ugly sweater from the resale shop or the thrift store, and a pair of jeans, some sneakers, and you're set to go.
Yeah, I tell people when I think nowadays, because the world is in so much debt, there's this crisis that we feel. We feel stressed. But when we really look at it, it's an opportunity to be creative and really challenge yourself. So when you plan something like entertainment, vacation, etc., challenge yourself to go under budget. Because what happens when you're able to go under budget, that's really taking some control. It's being creative, and it's allowing you to do what you want to do. And that's what it's all about.
And I think we were talking earlier, too, and you were talking about, I guess how you said it, having a limit or having a challenge isn't always the challenge. It just requires you to be more creative. And I'm not using the correct words. You explain a little bit more.
Yeah, so growing up, I realized I have 5 other siblings, and we're always talking about, like, money, right? There's this sense that we definitely want more money, right? We see the value in being able to become wealthy, invest, all those pieces. But when we got back to our childhood, our mom, she was a single parent, and we didn't have a lot, right? But it didn't stop us from doing a lot. And it was because we were very creative. And what I tell people now is the lack of resources doesn't mean that you can't do something. It just means that you have to be more creative. And as people, we are very creative people. We want to do things, and we shouldn't allow some of these things to deter us. Be creative. Call a friend. Google is my best friend. Always Google things. There are also things like Pinterest. There are so many different ways for you to get what you want to get and do what you want to do. It just may not be the way that you were used to, which again can be fun.
And I think mostly for the venues and for the organizations that are hosting these events, I mean, their big thing is just getting people to see the shows. They want people to experience it. Yeah. They want people. That's the you can offer and Bruce Tinker, who was the head of the Grand Rapids Civic Theater for a long time, he would always say you can offer the best production in the world, the best performance in the world, but if there's nobody in the audience to watch it,
right,
is it really the best production?
Right.
You have to think in terms of that too, and it's just as important for that person to be in the seat because that's what makes the show.
Yes.
And that's what makes the show. But let me ask you this: so when you're overall and you're looking at a budget and you're trying to figure out your budget for the year, I mean, should people at least plan for some portion of entertainment in that budget?
Yes. So what I tell people is your budget is your guide, right? It's your roadmap. I tell people I shouldn't have to introduce myself to you or ask you about your money. I should be able to look at your budget and it will show me what you value, right? So if you value self-care and if you value well-being, and taking care of yourself, that should be in your budget. You shouldn't want to hide the fact that you want to go enjoy your life. That should be included because what that means is that becomes your reason and your why for not doing some of the spending that you typically do. So for me, I have a fun fund.
Oh, I love that. Fun. I think we could brand that,
There we go.
We can brand that one. Okay.
So my fun fund is usually 10% of what I make goes into that, which allows me to enjoy my life. So if that's traveling to Chicago, traveling to California, looking at my daughter and seeing some of the experiences that she wants to have, I'm literally telling my money where to go. There are many times where other people or things tell you where to put your money, but the budget and the plan allows you to decide that. So I definitely agree that when we plan, you should be a little self-focused. Doesn't have to be selfish, but self-focused. And self-focused for me truly means that you're thinking about how your money's going to impact you so that you can impact others.
I think, too, do you find, like, for most people, I mean, they get so tied up in, okay, I've got to pay this, and I've got to pay that, and I've got to do this, that the debt part or the splurging part comes from the fact that they didn't control or think about that's doing something for themselves? Yeah,
so when I've helped people create budgets, before I would ask them, like, so how did you budget before? And they're like, well, what I did was first they didn't write anything down. They would, I call it budget from the brain. They would budget from their brain and try to deprive themselves of things. And then within the next month or two, they're so frustrated that they didn't get a chance to spend anything or they didn't feel like they spent anything on themselves. They would splurge the next month or the next 2 months. And again, like you said, Joanne, it's really taking a few steps back and looking at your budget as your forecaster. So today it's snowing in Grand Rapids, right? And if people are proactive, we probably would have known it would have snowed, right? And
well,
we don't.
It is Michigan.
Okay, that is true.
It's Michigan.
Yeah, depending on typically.
It is Michigan.
Typically, it's your budget is your financial forecaster, so you should be able to say, okay, this is what I want my month to look like, right? This is how I want to spend my money. I know when I've coached people, we talked about food, right? Food is probably one huge issue when we think about budgeting.
But it's also an entertainment factor because there are so many, and really honestly, there are so many amazing restaurants in Grand Rapids and the West Michigan area. You could eat it in a different culture every day practically.
Yes. So what people do is they'll say, oh, I'm not going to spend anything on fast food or going to restaurants. I'm just going to create my budget to grocery shop. And then next month they're like, I didn't do it. I failed. It's like, so change your budget, right? Because if you adjust your budget to your lifestyle instead of trying to do it in reverse, that's more of the control because you'll see what you need to make and the sacrifices or priorities you need to change to fit your lifestyle. And I call it don't set yourself up or don't do the New Year's resolution. where you make these promises that might not be realistic because it's not clear what you want to do, and you don't have any accountability. So why not be real? Create your budget to enjoy yourself, right? To position yourself to go to a symphony, go to a play, right? Enjoy a nice meal at a restaurant, purchase a great outfit, take control of your life. I know again, debt is something that is scaring everyone. Like, we definitely want to get out of debt, and that's important, but we also want to enjoy our lives because that's important too.
You bring up, and you just happen to mention New Year's resolution, and I think New Year's Eve. It's, it is the holidays. We've already spent all the money on the Christmas presents, but New Year's Eve. This year, the ball drop is coming back to Grand Rapids.
Awesome.
You can get, if you go around, and I don't remember the radio station right now, but you can go get free tickets for that. There is, they do have a thing. It's like $250 for the privacy room or whatever. But you do have that. There's all kinds of events going on. All kinds of parties you could attend.
Yep.
I mean, again, it's just planning that out.
Yep, plan it out. Grab a calendar, whether it's an electronic calendar or physical calendar, and say, I'm going to plan my fun, right? And then when I'm planning my fun, I'm going to make a budget for it. Again, I talked about this a few weeks ago, but it's like creating a Christmas list. We love to list the things that we want to purchase, right? And the things that we want to do, but we need to take it a step further and list the money that we have coming in to support it. Because if we don't have money coming in to support it, we need to think about, how can I still enjoy this without stressing myself out, right? And again, that involves education. Google everything, right? At 1428, what we try to do is we try to give people additional resources and strategies, again, to do what they want to do. Sometimes asking your friend may help. It's helpful to go as a group, right? That could change the cost, but it also could create accountability. So if your friend wants to enjoy something and you want to enjoy it, then create a plan. I tell people, be competitive in a great way. Me and my friends, what we do is we have competitions each month to save. Whoever saves the most.
Oh my
right?
God.
Whoever saves the most.
I'm sorry, but I can just hear my ear. My friend of mine going, he's a nerd. I was like, but he's a cool nerd.
Yeah, because it's fun because, again, we have these things out there that kind of deprive us from stuff. Why not position yourself to give yourself something, right? To recognize that you can take control, because that's what it's about. So what we do is we say whoever saves the most, everyone in that group has to give that person $100, right?
Wow.
It's a great strategy, right? Because, again, we typically have these spending competitions where, oh, my friend has this gear or has these clothes, let me go and one up that person. Reverse it, right? Save money and do it in that way. And then what you could do if you do win is take that money and spend it back on your friends. That's always a great thing to do.
Oh, that would be fun. That would be fun. I got a few restaurants that we could do. But yeah. But getting back to the entertainment thing, I mean, I guess for me, and I have followed some other budget planners and things like that, and the one thing I always find really shocking is that, and I think was very hard for me to follow, was the fact that they didn't include that element of doing something entertainment related or having that. It was all about, well, you want to pay this much for your bills, and you want to make sure that this much, and then you want to make sure you have this in the savings, and it was like, but where's that element? And it got very, very frustrating.
So I created financial planners. I call them the financial master planners, and you can find them on Amazon. And what you'll find is a category that says entertainment, right?
Really?
I'm a firm believer of, again, plan based on your lifestyle and the things that you want to do. I remember when I first started selling the planner, people were surprised that I had tithing in there. Like, you have tithing in there? I'm like, I want to have the things that people want to do, right? And then you decide if that's realistic for your lifestyle. So yes, there is a whole section dedicated to entertainment.
Well, and I'll be honest with you, tithing doesn't surprise me, because in most of the financial ones that I've ever looked at, tithing was always there. It's always right at the top. And I think everybody should, in a way, I believe everybody should give back. Whether you for me, I try to buy tickets at a theater that I work with for them to give away to people if they want to go do something like that. But I think everybody in a way should give back. no matter what they do, and that's extremely important. But yeah, I think the bigger frustration for me has always been that it doesn't seem like that whole promotional of entertainment part or aspect of doing that. It's like we're trained to feel guilty if we want to go see a show. We're trained to feel guilty that we want to spend $204, which is the cheapest ticket for Elton John right now. Just want to point that out. But we're trained to feel guilty about spending that kind of money because, well, that's a week and a half worth of groceries, or that's, you know, 1 month of, I don't know, maybe your electric or heating bill or something, or cable or whatever.
And it's only that when you are reacting to your budget. When you are being proactive, it is what you budgeted to be. So that $200 is for entertainment because I budgeted that way. I didn't have to sacrifice groceries to do that because I knew that I wanted to go to the play or enjoy myself in that way a few months ago.
And sometimes I have to admit, sometimes it is hard when they do announce that so-and-so is coming to Van Andel, and you've got only a couple weeks to figure out, well, can I swing the tickets? Can I make the phone calls? I remember where Katy Perry came, and this is not a story. Katy Perry came, and I was like, well, do I even try? I thought, well, my daughters really liked her. I'll just keep hitting the button and seeing it. I lucked out and I got in. It's rare when you get that opportunity, but then you also have to think about, okay, this is what the price of the tickets are. Can I even swing that?
Right.
To do it then? And then you're like, oh. And so, I mean, honestly, and again, it comes down to planning. You have a little extra money set aside that if a show comes up that you want to see, Katy Perry, Taylor Swift, Elton John, Barry Manilow. I don't think he's touring anymore, but so you know what I mean.
Right.
But if you're those shows, then it's important to just have that money set aside and then know, oh, hey, when that opportunity comes up, oh, I can do that.
There you go. In addition to that, I know if you're able to get additional source of income, it doesn't have to be anything major, but that can literally go to your entertainment. If you have a consistent stream of income coming in that pays your bills, right, and takes care of your needs, then start looking at some of your wants, right? Think about, okay, well, maybe this is a famous side hustle, Uber. Maybe I'll Uber 3 times a week and then put that in my fund, right? And then when those tickets roll around, not only do I have enough for myself, I can take a friend, right? I can share that experience with someone else. So
when you bring up we talk about side hustles, but there's also another whole aspect that I think people often forget, and it's kind of like if you can't really afford to go to something, there's opportunities to usher, there's opportunities to volunteer. Many of these, I mean, when we talk about Civic and Grand Rapids Symphony and even the Grand Rapids Ballet, a lot of these really heavily rely on volunteers, and they need help. And so volunteering your time is actually a form of payment. We don't think of that in terms of that sometimes, but it can be. And so if you want to go see a show, that's one way to go see a show for free. Yeah,
I know last month there was this conference, and there was this really great speaker, and I was like, I want to go see that speaker. But then I looked at the tickets, I was like, I don't know if I want to pay that. I volunteered. I had a chance to go around. I volunteered with my friend. He's a videographer, and we enjoyed ourselves. We heard some great information from the speaker, but going along with what you said, sometimes you can serve, right? You can provide service. There's no cost to you, but beyond your time, and then still be able to enjoy yourself. And that's what sometimes it's about.
I know, like the Grand Rapids Symphony heavily relies on the summertime, and summertime is always a great time to find a lot of free concerts around here. There's just tons and tons of free concerts, including the city of Wyoming and the city of Kentwood both provide free concerts as well during the summer. But they're picnic pops. I mean, and tickets are usually fairly reasonable. Even if you just sit on the lawn, it's not that expensive.
Right.
But if that's an issue and it doesn't, you don't usually pay for parking for that, you can volunteer. And volunteering creates its own form of entertainment because you have the opportunity to connect with people who enjoy the same thing, who are having a fun time, and it creates a different experience in a way.
Yeah, and it's another form of giving. Again, I'm a firm believer of, with our principles at 1428, giving is important, right? But it doesn't always have to be monetary. It could be given time. It could be given just your presence, right? Just being present. So that's one of the things that we encourage people to understand when we're thinking about the wellness of our finances, right? The holistic piece of our finances. How are we able to do everything that we want to do and not feel guilty about it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you find if people plan this all out and they include all those elements, including those wants and that, what I call entertainment, do they tend to be a little bit more successful?
So in the beginning, it's typically frustrating to people because I think it's a shift in thinking and culture and mindset. Mm-hmm. The most consistent thing that allows them to be successful is accountability. Mm-hmm. Usually when I'm helping people or assisting people in creating that budget, the first month is always a wreck. Mm-hmm. They'll create it. It sounds great. And then the next month they're like, yeah, I couldn't do it. Right. Mm-hmm. And I believe one of the reasons why is because they don't really have any accountability put in place. And accountability comes in many different forms, such as if you have a friend, a family member, a spouse, a significant other who you're communicating these things to and planning with, then are able to say, this is what you said you wanted to do, and vice versa. Another piece is I love to wear certain things. Mm-hmm. I have my Nope shirt on today because I need that reoccurring message of I'm not buying that. Mm-hmm. So I have my shirt. It's Nope. I'm not buying that. I'm focused on my finances. And finances isn't just your budget, right? It's the financial wellness piece. I'm focused on my health. I'm focused on my entertainment. I'm focused on giving. I'm focused on what I said I wanted to do. But then another thing, like we know with all plans, you have to leave some room for flexibility. And I think when people plan, sometimes they're not as real as they should be because when they don't live up to their plan, they get really discouraged. So what I encourage people to do in month 2 and month 3 is peel it back a little bit, be a little bit more realistic. Maybe your fund is not $2,000 a month. Right?
Oh, wow. I wish. Is my husband listening?
But start small, build up that momentum, and realize that you can take your control back because, like you said earlier, like the world that we live in today, we just feel guilty about doing a lot of things, and that's a feeling that society is putting on us. It's time to take our feeling back, take our control back, and again, take control of our finances.
Mm-hmm. But if you can afford $2,000 a month for fun, you shouldn't feel guilty about that.
Not at all.
And that's part of having that control and being able to do that.
Yes.
So that's fantastic. That's great. So I guess really the key points that we have for today for people especially when it comes, and I know it sounds a little strange for locally entertaining, but it's planning. It's taking a look and really thinking about it, making sure not to exclude those fun aspects, but to include those fun aspects as well when you're looking over a budget.
Yep. Never rob yourself of the things that you want to do because you're going to do them anyway. So why not do them cheaper and do them when you want to do them?
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you, is there a particular event or show or performances that you like to go see? Is there something that you always try to make sure to include in your budget? So
in Grand Rapids, I think it was last year, I went to go see The Bodyguard. It was a phenomenal show because I had never seen a play in that way. I remember growing up, I went to go see Huckleberry Finn. That was awesome. But now that I have my daughter, I'm really trying to expose her to forms of entertainment that I felt guilty about trying to enjoy growing up because when I thought about entertaining myself, my family would say, oh, that's really expensive. You don't want to do that. You don't want to go to that concert. So those are some of the things that I'm trying to do. But Grand Rapids offers so many different free events, like you said, especially during the summer. So you can always catch us in downtown Grand Rapids just at random events. We'll walk downtown and see what's going on. They'll have concerts in Rosa Parks Circle. And again, that's the entertainment aspect that I really love to enjoy. One of the things that I'm planning to do now with my fund is travel to California.
Oh, wow. We're in California.
So I went to San Francisco on a business trip a few weeks ago. I'm like, I want to go back and just enjoy myself. I went near the Golden Gate Bridge and learned about the history of the military base being there. I want to be able to go somewhere that's non-business oriented where I can really reap the benefits of the education on my terms. So that's one of the things that me and my daughter's working on. She's never taken a plane before. She just rode in a metro in Chicago. So for us, we're really trying to touch different states and cities so that she can be exposed to difference, because like you said, that's one of the parts of entertainment. Sometimes it's that difference in that environment that's just enriching for you, and it's educational in itself.
That is amazing. You know, we didn't even touch on the whole fact of just being able to provide things for kids and teaching them the value of entertainment. You know,
Yes.
I wonder though if sometimes that guiltiness, because I do remember and my, you know, you always think, oh, well, should I do this? Or, you know, parents always say, well, I don't know if you really want to pay that for that record. I bought a Kiss record. I remember, I don't know if anybody remembers Kiss, but I bought a Kiss record, and I remember, I think it was like $12 or $14. And I remember my mom saying, oh my gosh, your dad is going to flip out when he finds out how much you spent on that record. And it was like, you know, it was a 2 album, by the way. Like, it was not a single album, it was a double album.
There you go.
Oh yeah, so I got bang on my buck, but 2 for the price of 1. But yeah, you know, I remember that, and I think that is instilled upon us versus, you know, okay, did you plan that out? Did you think about, okay, you're going to spend that money, this is what you want, then you're not going to be able to get X, Y, Z, you know? And it comes back to your saying of counting the cost.
Yeah, my daughter, she has, I would say a piggy bank, but it's not shaped like a pig. And it has give, share, and spend on it, right? So when she gets money or earns money, she gets to decide how much she's going to give, how much she's going to share, and how much she's going to spend. Because, again, I want her to understand that she has options because it's her money. She can enjoy herself. She can give it if she wants to, or she can just save it for other things, like sometimes her dolls. She wanted a gymnastics bar about a year ago. She's in gymnastics, and she came to me and was like, Daddy, I want you to buy me a gymnastics bar. I was like, is this a give your child a fish moment or teach her how to fish? So one of the things I recognized was like, how about I empower her to do what she wants to do? Long story short, she looked it up on Amazon. She looked at how much it cost. She told me when she wanted it, so she wanted it within 3 months. We divided that cost. We went out and made money. She put it in her share, spend, and give jar, and then she bought her own gymnastics bar. So for her, at the age of 8, right, she's learning, like, I can do this, right? I just have to plan ahead, and then I can accomplish that goal.
That's incredible. That's an amazing, wow. To be honest, I didn't do that with my kids. Jean, did you do that with yours? She's like, no. So, yeah, that is pretty incredible. So, yeah. Well, I guess then that's really basically the main point here today. Really is that, you know, these are all attainable things. And I think one thing, too, I really want to emphasize is, you know, we think, you know, Grand Rapids, Opera Grand Rapids Symphony, and you got to be dressed to the nines and all of that. You don't have to do all of that. Tickets are fairly reasonable for most of these, for a lot of the productions, especially for the symphony shows. They're like, they start at $18 a ticket. And no, it may not be the grand main entrance seats, but it's still very, I mean, if anybody's been in DeVos Performance Hall, there's not a bad seat in the place. Nice. Or if you go to St. Cecilia, it's an amazing concert hall within itself. Yeah. Their tickets, you know, they're bringing in ENROLL. You can't get a ticket for Roseanne Cash. I think there's like a couple of seats left, but they're bringing that. And their tickets are usually not more than $50 for a lot of the major performers that they're bringing in. So, yeah, we have a lot going on from 20 Monroe to the intersection to just all kinds of different things that provide all kinds of different pricing. When would you recommend people start planning ahead?
So honestly, once you figure out, well, I wouldn't even say once you figure out, we know New Year's is coming up, right? And people they're not calling it New Year's resolutions, but they are making promises and things that they want to do, whether it's lose weight, whether it's increase something, whether it's decrease debt. They're making a lot of these plans. Start now. Literally make a list, dream big, and say, what are some of the things that I want to do and I want to enjoy? That's step one. And then step two is to start to add prices to those. Do a little research. Again, you can Google everything nowadays, but do a little research and look at how much those things cost. and then finally add your income to it, and that starts the process. But then after that, purchase either a financial planner online or a physical one, depending on if you want to write, and start to build it into a monthly plan. Identify when those events are, and then plan ahead.
Mm-hmm. And I think in the end, it makes it an even more special event and a lot more fun.
Yes.
I almost said funner, which you can just hear my kids screaming in the background. Oh my gosh, Mom said funner. So I'm not kidding. I patrol their writing like crazy, and it's a whole nother story. But anyways, I think in the end, and it just makes it even more of a mini release for the stress that you've dealt with for the entire week, the entire month, the entire year. Yep. If it has to be. So
I agree.
Yeah. Well, Dondrea, I want to thank you so much for being here today. This has been really enlightening, and I've really enjoyed having you on our podcast. And I understand you're going to be starting your own soon.
Yes, I'm going to be starting a podcast called Count the Cost. Like Joanne was saying, the goal is to count the cost, but not only the monetary cost, right? We also have to count the behavioral cost, because there's always a cost to that purchase. But we're counting it not to take it away, but to figure out how we can embed it into your finances. So we'll be covering everything from debt, investing, entertainment, tithing, like all these topics that sometimes people are afraid to discuss, but we're discussing it with confidence, optimism to really help you take control in those areas.
Great. Well, thanks, Dondrea. I really appreciate you being here again with me today. It's just been a delight to get to know you.
Thank you.
Our guest again has been Dondrea Brown from 1428 Financial Wellness, and I'm Joanne Bailey-Boorsma, and this has been Locally Entertaining.